Hi, I'm Amandeep Beesla, and welcome to Between Two Cranes, a podcast on safety culture and innovation. Today, my co-host is Gabe Guetta, co-founder and CEO of Salus, a former construction worker turned tech leader who's leading the safety culture movement for construction industry. We're going to peel back that safety net and dive into the conversations people aren't having when it comes to health and safety. But maybe they should. In today's episode, we're talking about how safety is a new normal. Testaments of safety first and zero incidents, and safety is our top priority. What does it mean to be safe? Let's find out.
How about those floods, hey?
Oh, it's not. My phone was, I don't know about you guys, but my phone was lit yesterday.
No, I didn't get a single phone call.
No, but like pictures and videos and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
No phone calls.
In the
Who calls nowadays?
Oh, right, yes. I never have phone calls. I'm pretty good with text messages. I'm terrible with social media, though. I don't know what's happening. I didn't even know there was
Yeah.
in 2016's area, that, era, I'm going to call it the 2016s.
Yeah.
Kind of before and just after, I was all over watching news, all that other stuff, soaked in, and I just find that it's like, it just drains you emotionally, mentally. There's never really anything good happening. It's just stuff that causes anxiety.
See, I just want to know, but I'm like very disconnected, and I think it comes from working law enforcement. So I did like...
Oh, because you disconnect from it in law enforcement? You don't watch it, you don't listen?
No, you do, but it doesn't affect you. I sometimes think I'm like emotionally kind of messed up, but that's a whole different conversation.
Podcast number 8.
Yeah.
Amandeep is emotionally fucked.
Yeah.
Or not.
Let's
find out.
I would say I have high emotional intelligence, but where does that come from? Working in a jail for 5 years and seeing some like pretty effed up things.
That's a podcast on its own. You're probably not allowed to talk about that though.
No. Yeah. NDRs, confidentiality, all that good stuff. But like the experience, like some of the things that you see, you can't unsee.
Yeah, no, I could.
And like law enforcement, you have a lot of black humor as well.
Yeah.
And like two of my brothers and my sister-in-law, they work law enforcement.
Yeah.
So it's just like they're
dark.
kind of wired differently.
Yeah, trying to make sense of it. You make jokes about it.
So when I watch the news, it doesn't really affect me much.
Yeah.
Like I should. Like
there's
some things that would make the average person cry, but I'm just like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And
I felt like it turned into an addiction. Like on my iPhone, I could swipe right and see the news.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Okay. Yeah.
And I was like, every morning I'd wake up, what's going on? At night, then all of a sudden during the day, just naturally flipping over, seeing what's going on. And then I got rid of that. But then I was like checking in on news stations, and I was like, you know what? This is turning into like reality TV crap, where it's just like, what's the next hot mess that's happening on the planet or around you? And sometimes it's just embellished.
Yeah.
Find the farthest perspective of whatever side you're on, and embellish it enough to create conflict. And it's just like, whatever your perspective is on life, they're gonna find something that you are passionate about, and they're going to find the conflict with that, and they're going to show it, and you're going to find your news station that you identify with, and they're just going to keep inflating that.
So I do the opposite. Like I look at different news
you
stations,
can.
because I'm like, I want to see, like they're like, oh, look over here. I want to know what's going on over there.
But it's not, that's the problem, is you can look at those, but it's not like normal perspective. It's the farthest perspective they can find to inflame their followers.
Yeah.
So whichever way
you
look.
Sell the news.
Yeah, it's all about selling. It's not about news anymore. It's not about community.
Content consumption. Like sometimes
clickbait.
Yeah.
Just click.
I was
That's all you want to do.
An article, and there's so much information out there.
Yeah.
More so than ever before.
More than you can absorb.
Like, there's so much, and you're just kind of like, you have to be very strategic and selective.
Yeah, and we're wired to care more about the problems than the solutions and the good versus the bad.
Like even decision fatigue, it's a thing.
Like, absolutely. So I cut it out, and I'm a lot better for it. I don't watch it anymore. I actually watched today. I watched the floods that were happening today. see what was going on.
I was looking at the numbers, the COVID numbers, the cases. I was like, how are we going back up again and down? And
yeah, I've kind of stopped looking at that too. I probably shouldn't say that, but it's just, you always I find that when you look at the news, naturally, what is the first thing you're thinking of? You navigate to the worst situation.
True.
So it's like, well, what am I really looking for? Just chaos? Right? It's like floods. You look through floods. Oh, that picture doesn't look that bad. Oh my God, the whole roadway's washed out, blah, blah. Then that's all people talk about.
Yes.
And then what could come from that? Are we going to not have food transport from us to the rest of Canada? Right? Like,
yeah, that's right.
And then it's just like, you know what?
And they give it like catchy headlines.
Yeah.
Topics.
Yeah, and I guess at the end of the day, you kind of do need to know about these things, so I'm not just sitting in my house and all of a sudden, like, the lights go out and I open my door and there's just like 4 feet of water flowing by me. It's like, what? There's a flood?
Never got the memo.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's just, I always say it's like a pendulum. You can't swing the pendulum too far in either direction. Unfortunately, sometimes to get the pendulum moving, you got to get it so that it goes too far one way, too far the other way before it levels out, but that didn't make sense, did it? Did I lose you there?
Yeah, kind of.
Me and my pendulum talk.
Yeah. I was thinking, how are we gonna? I'm loving this conversation, but how are we gonna tie it into?
How are we gonna tie it into safety is the new normal?
Or should we just kind of start over again?
I think keep rolling.
No, this is the beauty of it. We watch this is the candidacy. We're gonna
Okay.
roll what we just talked about right here.
Okay, fair enough.
You pointing like, how the hell are we gonna get into this conversation now?
Yeah.
No, you tell me.
Well, safety, I think, touches everything we do. Everything. From when we wake up in the morning. Okay, so did you get enough sleep? Are you fit for duty or fit for work? To brushing your teeth. Okay, is it FDA approved?
Brushing your teeth, is it FDA approved?
No, the Colgate. The stuff that you're using, the toothpaste.
Yeah, I think that's stuff that we've been doing.
I think safety
subconsciously for a long time, like put your seatbelt on and stuff like that. But how is it into the new normal?
Okay, so let's tie in COVID to this.
There you go. Now we're getting somewhere.
Up until last year, I can tell you there must have been like a handful of people that knew what PPE is, for example.
Yep.
Same time last year, my niece, who was like 5 years old at the time, could probably tell you what PPE is.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Bonnie Henry.
Yeah, of course.
What happened was there was this global pandemic, and all of a sudden, people are worried about dying, which ties into health and safety. Right? Why are you saying, like, let's not even talk about like work, let's talk about just life.
Yeah, so
now everyone's awareness is all heightened. People are super hypersensitive. Like, we don't want to die from this virus. Boom, on goes the mask. Boom, goes the gloves. Oh yeah, can't leave your house. Isolation. How do you best way, number one way to control or mitigate a hazard? Eliminate. Don't even leave your house.
Yeah.
But then, we start talking about mental health and people like losing their shit last year too, right? So, I mean, health and safety. I think this was, and even looking at COVID as a benchmark on a timeline, people talk about and they reference eras. Yeah. Well, people are referencing, like pre-COVID, post-COVID. I'm like, holy smokes, like, when did this become a thing? But it's here. It's
now. So I mean, in construction, we talked about a lot how 7-8 years ago it was PPE. That's all we knew. There was no paperwork, anything like that. And then over the last 7, at least in the world that I was in, high-rise construction in British Columbia, and then all of a sudden, field level compliance, paperwork, breaking up complacency. What is complacency? Changing the culture. And that was a transition. Then and I never imagined a million years that I'd go home and that type of mindset would start to migrate, because we've talked about this before. You do something at work, 3 points of contact on your ladder at all times. Wear a harness when you're above 10 feet. You go home, out the window. 3 points of contact on a 4-foot step ladder? Probably not, right? Going to hang Christmas lights on your roof? Probably not putting a harness on. Yeah. Right? But what I've seen in COVID is all of a sudden, for the first time, you have complacency checklists. COVID self-assessment forms. That's exactly what they are. Yeah. Is And now it ties in the complacency aspect to stop and think, am I actually sick? I mean, it's not as much complacency as in I'm not worried about my surroundings and everything, but it's stopping and like, hey, am I used to these feelings? Am I used to this? Let's stop. Do I actually have symptoms? And also to protect the business, proving that they've gotten those checklists. That's exactly the type of stuff that you go through at work and is starting to drip into society.
Yes.
And is that a good thing?
There's signage everywhere, and thanks, you actually just remind me, I'm going to fill out my checklist.
Yes, I did that on purpose. There you go. Like, hasn't even done it for work today.
Didn't do my assessment.
Safety director of Insight and Innovation doesn't even fill out her COVID checklist. Unbelievable.
I had an excuse the first time. I was like, how do I navigate? But no excuses now.
That's okay. But I think
it's true. But society,
it's changing the way we think.
It's absolutely,
Health and
People
safety.
People are having those conversations now.
Yeah.
There's signage. It comes on in the news.
Is it a safe work environment? That I'm not, whether I'm working there or that I'm even visiting. I'm going to restaurants now worrying about, there's always food safe.
Yeah.
But now I'm worried about, my health when I go there.
Oh, yeah.
And at the end of the day, safety shouldn't be secluded to a vertical of your work environment.
No, absolutely
So I shouldn't be secluded to mentally adjust as I go to construction site. I have to follow this and this. Because that means that new and young workers, it's like a world of unknown. There should be a base understanding that shouldn't have to be introduced. And we've talked about this in and around from new and young workers. How do we gate that coming into the industry? But what we're starting to see shift is the mentality around safety to start the adoption of this type of mentality. Now, do I think anytime in the near future is somebody going to pull out a checklist on their phone before they use their lawnmower? No, I don't think that's going to happen. But I think we can start to shift the understanding of why that's needed. And maybe when somebody gets to a certain level of risk, they start to think that way. Like, do I have a checklist for this? Maybe manufacturers are going to start to make more easily and readily available checklists for these types of equipment for homeowners so that they can actually build it more into the culture. Because at the end of the day, it takes 2 minutes to do a checklist on a lawnmower.
It's almost like reprogramming society. It's almost like COVID, it like paused everything that we were doing, and it almost forced us to look at things from that perspective. Mm-hmm. Like, again, like having that heightened awareness. Mm-hmm. What is the hazard? There is a disease out there that can potentially kill you. That's looking at the very extreme end of things. Mm-hmm. Okay, how are we going to control that? How are we going to take that thought of analyzing that risk and applying it to everyday real life?
Yeah.
Whether it be at work, whether it be at home, whether it be wherever else, right? Mm-hmm. And even like it was fear of the unknown. Even with me, like last year, like so I love kickboxing. Stopped going last year, and I'm like, I need to get back into it. Like I need to get in shape. I feel like I'm losing my mind. I'm like, it does wonders. And then when I went back, just like this summer, I was like looking around. Okay, there's like proper signage. People are doing proper things, and there's only so much social distancing you can do when you're kickboxing, but like just having that thought, because I've never looked at it that way before. I've never thought about that. So if that thought was provoked by this and I've shifted my thought, what about everybody else? Mm-hmm. Right? And what about like the rest of society? Yep. And I think it goes like going back to that point where I was talking about how my niece, she knew what PPE was because she's putting on the mask and whatnot. It comes right down to like the infancy, like from young kids to old people. Mm-hmm.
And I think it shines a light on complacency as a mentality, because before, other countries are better than others at this, but before COVID, wearing a mask when you were sick just didn't happen.
Yeah, no.
Spreading germs, really, like, the mindset of washing your hands has been there for a very long time.
Yeah.
But why? Why are we really in touch with why? Like at the end of the day, we are going to come out of this with a higher sense of awareness around that. The question becomes, is this all good or not? Have we swung the pendulum too far?
True.
Or if we go down this mentality of taking out the mindset from these industries like oil and gas, mining, construction, all the healthcare, the mentality you have around health and safety in those environments, in your workplace, and start introducing them to society, is that a good thing?
Do you think that we're inhibiting people from thought? Like, so for example, there were signs and there were people being like, wash your hands. And I'm like, I've never had this before. Like, were people just not washing their hands? Or are we assuming society is gradually getting like stupider?
I don't know if
and now we need to like basically put it out there. Like, and I'm like, what's going on here? Like, yeah, there's certain verbiage and messaging that needs to be communicated, but like basics, like washing your hands.
Well, I think it's many different things. I think it's your experience, your perspective, your upbringing, your life experience, depending on where you're from, all these different things. Like, at the end of the day, washing hands, yeah, sure, you go to the bathroom. There's probably a majority of society that washes their hands. Those are kind of table stakes things. Let's hope more than the majority.
Yeah.
But then there's aspects of like, I'm sick. Do I wash my hands every single time I leave my house, or when I enter a restaurant or somewhere else, or if I have a slight cough, or my kids are in daycare? They're just cesspools. Let's be clear. Kids in daycare are just covered in germs. Do I wash my hands every single, right? And it becomes, well, we didn't before. We should start thinking about that more now to stop the spread of a pandemic. Wear a mask, sanitize. But then there's the flip side of that, is also what are you creating within that process? And I understand to stop a pandemic, you have to take measures and swing the pendulum, like I've said before, too far to one side. But what happens with the general immune system that you've created from your kids playing in dirt, sharing germs naturally, the stuff that you build an immunity to, and the natural kind of, it's interesting because it's like, do you look at that as complacent or not healthy or not safe? Or is it allowing you to look at it in a different light outside of the perspective of, these are the checklists you have to do, follow this, don't think outside the box here, just do these and then everyone's okay. Because I think that when you start to do that in society, you're right, it could start creating this corporate world. Nobody wants to live in a corporate world. That's not how we got to who we are today as a people. You always have to challenge and question. But it's an interesting conversation, because it's something that if we had the mentality throughout as a being to automatically, when you come up to a ladder, just like going into a car, you put your seatbelt on, it's ingrained in you. I have 3 points of contact. That's how I work on ladders. And safety is kind of ingrained. The barriers are kind of ingrained, which becomes difficult because we're not machines. We're people that have different tolerances. So that becomes difficult on its own right. But does that make it better as a society if, as they enter the workforce, there's a societal impact on those individuals entering the workforce with a general understanding of health and safety and risk, complacency, all these things? Or are we creating a society that's just going to be in a box?
Great conversation.
Woo! So what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. We're always going to have people that are on, like we're talking about the pendulum, we're always going to have people that may be on either side. So how do you integrate these people and then get them to work together collectively?
Exactly, and that's something that you experience in the work environment as well.
Oh yeah,
right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And sometimes safety, that's one thing I like about, I only know this from working with the BC, WorkSafe BC. But they're very good at working with businesses on these are the regulations. But if you find that those regulations are actually impeding on your workflows and making it more dangerous, talk to us. We'll work with you in making it better, because
they're good. Because I mean, again, it's people, right? And we're not perfect, and sometimes you may create like a control or mitigation to a hazard, but then now you're introducing more hazards.
Covers 90% of the situations, but there's 10%.
I'm sure you've been there before, that area of gray. And like WCB, they're good. Like as a regulatory body enforcing, and you have that conversation with them, like they're very understanding.
Yeah, I mean, installing windows in general is a dangerous task, and having to wear a harness is a must. Because you're working on the edge of a building, holding a 300-pound window, 200-pound window, whatever it may be, with suction cups. Yeah. But your harness is not just a harness that you put on, and if you fall, it pulls you back. There's a lanyard and then a line. That lanyard and a line can be very dangerous as you're walking to the edge with a window. Let's say, like, there's just tripping hazards. It introduces a lot of hazards. Yeah. And I would say that there's no perfect way of setting it up. Ideally, you have overhead or so it's never dragging on the ground, your rope or anything like that. But realistically, site situations don't allow for that. But anyways, we could go into that. But at the end of the day, sometimes it does introduce more hazards, and you gotta be able to think outside the box and say, okay, the end goal here is that we're going to eliminate as much risk as we can and allow ourselves to perform the job that we need to do. Yeah. Because, for example, like tethering tools, great, makes sense. But there's some aspects that's just like, am I going to tether every screw? Right? And it is funny as a concept, but at the same time, you're dealing with a screw, or a bolt from 40 floors up.
Oh, yeah.
That drops.
Significant impact, yeah.
And those fall.
I've seen it firsthand. We used to do safety rodeos in Fort Mac sometimes. And so
I feel like safety and rodeo don't, like, those words aren't like combined together. Okay, rodeo just sounds dangerous and safety. Yeah. But go on.
Cowboys,
Like riding a bull. Is there a safe way of doing that?
Yeah, no, probably not.
Anyways, I interrupted. Continue.
Yeah. And so they demonstrate what it looks like. So we'll take like a watermelon or something, and we'll drop it from a height using like a man lift.
So you don't mean like safety at a rodeo? You meant like a safety rodeo, kind of like a road show.
Like
safety.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
We weren't connected on that one.
Yes. Picking up what?
Yeah, we're kind of.
Down,
yeah.
We're like.
Yeah, this is how we make cowboys safer. That's what I was thinking. Like, I don't know about that. Okay, Farley, I get it. That was a corny joke.
Safety is a new normal.
It is. And I think that that's starting to become pushed more into work environment. Like, let's forget about the theoretical aspect of what could happen, where it's going. But in general, society's more aware. I'm a father. I've said this before. I have 2 kids. I'm going to be a lot more aware of the work environment that my kids are going into. There's a fine line. You don't want to be in control. Yeah. But I will be engaged, asking them questions about the company that they're working with around health and safety, especially if they're in construction.
Absolutely.
Because I can tell you right now, if my parents knew the stuff that I did in construction, mind you, they might have known and really not known any better. Yeah. Like, didn't really get fall protection training for the first 4 years of my career, that type of, like, but for them, I was wearing a harness.
Yeah.
They don't know any better, but now I feel like there's more of a connection in society with just what is supposed to be.
Yeah.
And so you're starting to get, and the youth coming into the industry that I feel it's starting to move the needle a little bit more on understanding their rights as well. Right to refuse unsafe work.
I think they have a voice.
Yeah.
Like new and young workers, they voice their concerns, and they bring safety to the forefront.
Yeah.
Back in like our day, we were just told to shut up and do the work.
Which is good and bad.
Yeah. Yeah. And
sometimes those new and young workers do just got to shut up and do the work. But no, I love that conversation. It was good.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah. I don't have any closing statements. Do you have any closing statements?
I just wonder, like, we know where we've been and we know where we're at right now. So a lot of times I think, where are we headed? Where are we going? Where is the future of safety? Safety is the new normal? Sure, yes, I absolutely believe that. But what next?
Yeah, I think that we need to have let's forget about society, but as an industry, have a little bit of a think outside of the box, collaboration as an industry. Put our competitive differences aside.
Yes,
I stole that from you, and I'll call that out.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good. Yeah, let's look at it as peers.
And think about this, not just competitive differences aside, but hierarchical differences aside.
Yeah.
And the problem with health and safety is when we talk, we think we're liable. So we don't want to say what's on our mind.
True.
Because if I talk like this, it might mean that I'm liable or my business is liable, so I can't question what's set in regulation.
Yeah.
Accountants can question regulation all they want. It doesn't mean that they're liable for anything. But in health and safety, it's different. And I feel like we need to break that barrier to allow a new and young worker to come and talk to the community and say, I think this is okay, I don't like this, I don't understand this, I think this is BS, or a site superintendent or a project manager, or better yet, a safety officer.
Encourage that resilience.
Question, progress doesn't happen without questioning it. Science is built on defying science and questioning science, right? Is that really the best way to do it? And then you question it. And just think about things that we thought were scientifically proven in the past to realizing that we were wrong. That's the same way we have to look at health and safety. We're progressing, but let's make sure we're going down the right path. It's the same thing in business. You want different perspectives sitting around you to ensure that you're not just going one direction, and you better hope that's the right direction, because most of the time you need to analyze so many different directions and kind of pull different things together to find the right route.
True. Yeah. That's awesome. I think that was really good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. I rehearsed it. And you're going to do the cut, Farley?
As we end today's podcast, it would mean the world to me if you would take 5 seconds and push that like button and leave a comment to let us know how we did and show some love. If you have any questions or topics you'd like to explore, tell me about it below. Don't forget to subscribe. One last thing. You're going to want to download the resource on de-risking your business. I'll put the link in the description.
Where's the link?
Up here? Maybe here? Down below? I don't know. Maybe here?